I was giving up a very solid, well-paying job that had a very predetermined career path where you knew in that many years you would be at this stage, you would be earning that much, and you would be taken care of. Now trying to live in New York City, a very expensive city, trying to build a business that I had no idea about. So for us, the starting point was kind of like, how can we survive if we don't pay ourselves a salary?
Hi, Chris.
Hi, John. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well. Thank you for joining this podcast. Can you tell me a little bit more about who you are and what you do?
Yes, absolutely. I'm Chris Witchard, a founder operator. I co founded Koio and scaled it into an 8-digit profitable omnichannel brand over the last 10 years.
Okay, that's amazing. Koio is a really well-known brand. So, can you tell me a little bit more about how you got started with entrepreneurship to begin with?
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually started my career in investment banking in Frankfurt and London after graduating from college in Germany. Yeah, I quickly figured that investment banking was a good foundation, but wasn't what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. And with that foundation, I took the next step and initially went to LA to work for a startup there, and then shifted into my MBA at Wharton. During my MBA at Wharton, I found my co-founder, who also happened to be German. We were the only two Germans in our year, and yeah, we connected over our mutual love for sneakers and Italian craftsmanship. And at the time, it was like the hype of the DTC era, DTC boom. Our goal was to build a modern version of a luxury brand, and that's what we set out to do with Koyo.
Okay, and that's great. Like this ha happened like in 2020, in 2015, 2014, something like that.
2015, yeah.
Yeah, okay, that's great. And the other reason why you connected, it was like because he was German as well, right? Like it affects for example, like I have a lot of friends that are Greek and they go to a different country, they only hang out with Greeks. Is that what happened to you, or you actually connected before understanding that you were both German?
No, I think the initial connection was because we're both German. We were in like, yeah, for us, a foreign country, 800 students, and there were only two Germans. So that was our first meeting point and touching point. And then we discovered that we had a lot of shared interests. We got along very well. We became friends. And as part of that, we started talking about our interests and, yeah, realized that we both wanted to start a business in this world.
Yeah. Okay, that's great. Like, and it's something that I have a question for you is because like investment banking as a business, as like an occupation is actually something that is very lucrative. So you can make money through investment banking. So I'm wondering like why you didn't like it. Like it was like what you actually did for work, or you wanted even more money. Like what was the main motivation behind opening a business?
Yeah, it wasn't really about the money. I wasn't thinking, I mean, like I was aware that I was giving up a very solid, well-paying job that had a very predetermined career path where you knew in that many years you would be at this stage, you would be earning that much, and you would be taken care of. But I guess I've always been more of a risk taker, and I think what I really wanted was to like find what fulfills me, what kind of work fulfills me. In investment banking, while I feel like I learned a good foundation in terms of financial analysis, structured working, hard working, diligence, it didn't like spark joy. Like I wasn't going to work with a smile on my face and like, yeah, it wasn't like that. So I was curious what that would be, and in starting our own business in like especially in the early days when we came together, it was just an idea. We had no idea about fashion. We had no idea about shoemaking, and we needed to figure everything out. This was your starting point, and like the world was your oyster essentially, and you had no idea where to go. You had to really figure everything out. It was just the two of us in a room. Yeah, post Wharton, we moved to Brooklyn. We had a small apartment there. We used it as our yeah, as our warehouse, as our office, as our showroom, essentially as everything. And it was like this dynamic of like starting something together, everybody being all in and really like doing something that you believed in and that you felt like could have a positive impact on like the lives of others and the world. That got me excited and that got me going down this route. But you're correctly right. Like I gave up a very like yeah well-paying career opportunity, and it's certainly hard if you have to then yeah earn every dollar yourself, right? There's no one, there's no paycheck coming in every 2 weeks. It's like essentially what you're selling, what you can make. So it's a risky move, but I think ultimately it paid off. Like you only have one life, and I think you want to work on something that truly fulfills you.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely agree with that. And the thing is that because you already had your MBA as well, and you could like you had a way to actually get out. Like if this didn't work, you could actually go back and work. Like you had a plan B, which is something that um, I assume for many people it's actually something that creates more safety, more like confidence to actually go out and work on their dream specifically. Is that something that affected you, do you think?
I think of it a little bit differently than you described. I think the longer you stay in this entrepreneurial route on your own journey, the less of a plan B you have, because the other options, especially if they were very structured, logical career paths, um, they become less available to you the longer you are an entrepreneur. So you're probably right. Like upon graduating Wharton, if we like started Koio and it went bust in like 6 months, that I could easily find another job. But as the years went by, as we became more and more like entrepreneurial and running focused on Koio, I was actually meeting up with some of my old bosses and colleagues that were in investment banking or that were now at like private equity shops, and they're like, "Wow, you really like left your job to be selling shoes now." Like if you numb it down, that's what like some people were confronting me with, and I was like, yeah, I guess so. And as the years went by, you started to realize that you like went on a very different career path, and that it would be hard to get back into like this typical lane of like financial business world that follows like we hire you right out of school or right from your MBA, and then you have 3 years in this position, 3 years in this position. If you like have a gig where you're 7 years doing something completely different, I don't think they necessarily want you back, even though I think you learn so much as an operator and truly looking into a business and truly running a business, understanding the pain points that could be very valuable. But I think if you want to go down the entrepreneurial route, you need to have a little bit of a risk-taking side inside you. You need to be comfortable with uncertainty, and I think you shouldn't be like thinking too much about, oh, what if this goes wrong? Can I still go back to my old job? Understand that this is like a logical fear, but I think yeah, you really need to decide between like, hey, do I want a uncertainty, risk, entrepreneurial way, or do I want a very structured, more safety net oriented job? Of course, you can always pivot, but like the longer you go in one direction, the harder it will be. And yeah, I feel like we're coming up on 10 years now with Koyo and in this entrepreneurial journey, and I'm realizing now like what comes next, what comes after this. Like, but I probably found for myself that I will stay in this more entrepreneurial world.
Yeah, for sure. And this is exactly what happened to me as well. Like I was studying mechanical engineering, and I started a phone case company, like an e-commerce brand where we're selling phone cases. And I've met with my friends, like in this, like after years, and like I was the guy that was selling phone cases, basically. So I can relate. I can definitely relate to that. Like it's difficult to pinpoint, especially like if your brand is isn't too like known, like so like okay, I own Amazon, like it sounds different. It's
Or
not just a retail store, especially when you come up. But yeah, like it's amazing what you've built, and it's definitely more admirable than just having like a specific career path with like in investment banking. It's it's much more like you're affecting much more people basically, and you've created something. You didn't just like follow the path, and that's good. What I want to understand, because I want to talk more about like, because I see that you have actually raised money for the business, and can you walk me through that part? Because for e-commerce brands, yes, you actually can raise money, but I don't see that too often. Like I see that like there are a lot of businesses that have raised money, but it's not like B2B SaaS where like you have to raise money or you are not going to succeed. So can you tell me about your experience as an e-commerce owner, like raising money? How did that go, and if that actually is something that you regret or not?
Yeah, very good question. So with Koio, we've raised over the years probably close to 20 million in venture funding. And when we set out, for us, it was kind of like both my co-founder and I, we came from, again, from our MBA. We had business school debt. He actually had his MBA paid by McKinsey, and like took a year to work on. He took a year to work on Koyo or not go back to McKinsey, but also quickly realized I'm either all in or not. And I had business school debt and was now trying to live in New York City, a very expensive city, trying to build a business that I had no idea about. So for us, the starting point was kind of like, how can we survive if we don't pay ourselves a salary? We realized we couldn't, and then we were like, okay, how can we get to paying us a salary from day one? And the only option for us was if we raise venture funding. Without that, I don't think we could have been able to even get started in New York, because we just personally didn't have the money. In terms of raising financing, I think 2015, 2016, 2017 was a very different time than it is now for a DTC e-commerce brand. At that time, I think we were at the, still rising up to the peak point of DTC. It was a new business model. Everybody was building cutting out the middleman version of something. And investors were hyped by it, excited by it, and were pouring money into it. So if you had like a somewhat differentiated business model and you had a good vision, you could raise financing. I think this market has changed dramatically for DTC e-commerce. I think it's a lot harder to raise money. At the time there was a different idea, right? It felt like it was more of a fundamental business model shift, and we would outgrow all traditional businesses, but more and more traditional brands have picked up e-commerce, and now it's just like a standard, right? So with just this business model, it's very hard to raise financing now. So I think if we were to set out now with the same idea, we couldn't get financing. We couldn't even get financing. And I think if you want to get financing now, if you think this is the right path for your business, what you would need to do is I think you would need to have a very differentiated business model, a very clear idea and vision for what the company is going to become. I think there's more boxes to check in order to show early traction. It's harder, the hurdle is harder to get that financing in this day and age after the DTC e-commerce hype has died. And now there's this whole other equation to it. It's like, should you get financing, right? Should you get venture capital financing because it puts you on a certain path? I think it's super, super important to, if you get financing, like really date your investors and not just take any money that you're being offered, but make sure that you're aligned on the long-term vision, so that there's no issues as soon as you were like in business together, right? Because these people give you your money, they want to make sure they get it back in some return, so you better make sure that you guys are aligned, otherwise there will be friction along the way. And in general, I think it really depends on the kind of business, whether you want to raise money or not. I think a lot of DTC e-commerce brands that start now don't need venture funding. I think venture funding is something that you require if you are like really trying to like have high cost, high expenses that will translate to high growth and high revenues down the line. If you're like are thinking of more of a traditional path, doing it step by step, doing it more organic, which can be better for a lot of brands, taking your time, really trying to figure out product market fit, really trying to figure out go-to-market strategy, you can build a more authentic brand potentially. So ultimately, it really depends on the situation that you're in, the business that you're building, and whether venture funding is necessary or not. But if you can avoid it, and if you like can really like try to be a little bit slower in finding your product market fit and making sure you get things right, I think it can be advantageous for brands in the long run.
Yeah, what I definitely agree, and it's something that um, like raising capital. It's not like like if you have an e-commerce brand and you want to grow it, you have to, and you cannot actually pay yourself a salary. You basically have to raise capital. But the thing is, at that time, raising capital, like because the expectations for e-commerce businesses were so high, like they didn't know it was something new. The returns that I assume that the returns that the investors were expecting were like they were basically thinking that it's going to grow like a SaaS business, that's going to grow like to like $1 billion worth. So is that something that affected your valuation? Like what? Because you've raised 20 million, which is not a small amount. Like what was your evaluation like in total about those 20 million?
So I mean, like back at the time, there were already like funds that were investing in brands and that were not just investing in SaaS tech companies. And I think depending on who you speak to, the kind of investor that you speak to, they have different expectations, right? So our investors that were brand oriented, brand focused, or e-commerce oriented certainly had different expectations than the traditional tech investor. We, for example, worked with a lot of investors that understood brand, that have had experience in retail, in e-commerce, and understood what it takes to build a brand versus we're gonna build a tech company and it's either one or zero whether it works or not. Like our investors also cared about getting some return versus like they didn't have the business model necessarily where it's like, oh, it either I'll put money in 100 and I hope like two of them work. They were more like we want all of these businesses to like perform decently well at least. So yeah, I think it's about speaking to the right kind of investors, and I think we got very lucky with our investor base. We built a very strong connection with them. We have a lot of different investors, but we're like keeping them engaged. I think one thing that's important is like to be very transparent and to send like updates a lot. So we have like a monthly newsletter where we share key KPIs and key things happening in the business or topics where we need help and reach out to all of our investors. And I think that transparency creates a level of trust so that everyone knows where they are. And with that, obviously bigger investors like are part of the board or even more involved. With that, you can like really work together to get where you are, and you can make sure that expectations are aligned. But I think it's crucial as you're getting your investors on board, you're being honest and real about the business that you want to build, the trajectory it can take, and then make sure expectations are aligned.
Yeah, I definitely understand now about that. So I just want to understand what is the situation with the business right now. Like for example, what are the revenues that you're currently producing, like on a year basis, and what are the goals that you have? Like you want to grow and like in what channels? So can we tell you about now? What's going on with the business now?
So I think we've like if you look at the trajectory over the last 10 years, initially the first 5 years were super fun. We were figuring out how to run a company, we were building a team, we had a nice office in Soho, and it was like an upward trajectory. Then we hit our first roadblock, that was with the pandemic, where all of a sudden it was harder to sell our kind of product, which was shoes that are used for social occasions, whether you go on dates, to weddings, or to like the office. So all of a sudden this occasion wasn't there anymore, and there was less of a need for our shoes. So that was our first like friction point. And then afterwards, we saw a shift in the DTC market where people, or like the market was previously really growth oriented, like they wanted you to raise money and get to the next level. And now it shifted to like you needed to be profitable, and it was a lot harder to get money. So essentially during that phase, starting in like late 2022, early 2023, a lot of companies struggled. The whole market has struggled, and I know many other founders that started with us that went out of business during that period just because their cost basis was too high. They built a business based on growth, and all of a sudden they didn't have access to money anymore. And that time was also challenging for us. We needed to, my co-founder and I, we looked each other in the eye and we were like, well, we're losing money, we need to do something, or we're gonna be done in like 2 months. And what we did then was like, we came up with a business plan to really transform the business to make sure that it becomes self-sustainable, which was something that, of course, the original investors didn't sign up for, but no one signed up for that shift in market. And I think the goal was to make the most out of this new situation and get the business into a self-sustainable place. And that required for us to cut a large part of our workforce, which was very hard, to cut our office and to cut expenses wherever we could within marketing, to really go through the whole P&L and see like what's necessary, what's driving revenue, what's keeping like the brand, and what is nice to have, what is experiments, what are certain things that we should not be spending money on where we're losing money. So we cut our whole P&L. We probably slashed expenses by 50% year over year. We shifted to a remote setup. We realized that having a large team in New York in a nice fancy office was expensive. We had to cut a lot of that and move to a remote setup where we now hire people globally. For example, we have people in Brazil, in Turkey, in South Africa, and we're working in a global team that doesn't require an office, that is more agile and more aligned. And I think with this shift that took probably 18 months to execute from idea to here we are. It was a very hard time. It was a very challenging time. It was a very emotional time, and because you realize things didn't go the way you wanted them to go. At the same time, you realize, well, these are people that worked with me for a long time, but I need to make changes, otherwise the company is gonna go bust. So I think we had a lot of learnings in this time, and we executed it very well, and we set up the company to be less growth oriented and much more profit oriented, and we managed to get the company to profitability in this time. And now I can say that the business is self-sustaining in itself, and we're looking at like growing parts of the business again. One thing that we cut last year was also like expanding into new areas, new shoes. We realized that we grew too quickly. We added too many SKUs too fast. We had men's sneakers, women's sneakers, men's boots, women's boots, loafers, slippers, slides, beach shoes. It was too much too fast. so that it became very, very hard to know what the Koio brand stood for. And it was also very, very hard to market the individual items. We had so many items that like we didn't even have the marketing budget to really like tell the stories behind them. So in this reset, we were starting to cut costs, we were starting to cut SKUs, and I think now we have a very, very solid basis from which we're growing again.
Yeah. This is something that the only e-commerce business that I know and the only business model that I know is like the bootstrap style of business, where you actually like create a business. Okay, you can find someone that's going to get a percentage so they can give you money so you can start. But the main goal is profitability and scale profitably. When you actually raise money, this actually shifts. Like instead of creating a business that grows with profitability and you want to actually make money year over year, you're actually trying to fulfill investors by pouring the money that they gave you so you can burn and actually scale. This business model that I don't really understand because I have never experienced it. Like with my e-commerce brand, I bootstrap it, and with the businesses that we manage, because we do meta ads for e-commerce businesses, mainly those type of business. So I have never actually managed a Facebook ad account that they told me, okay, I don't want it to be profitable. I want it to just like spend money. Did you went through that phase? Not now, of course, like before doing this shift, where you actually had your ad account, like your Facebook ad account, or like you had a marketing budget and you just pushed without you focusing on getting a return or being profitable when you're actually pushing money.
Yeah, I feel like that's a little bit what I described earlier, that we had no choice but to raise venture financing early on. So we went on this path of like, we have money, let's spend it, let's grow. And I think with the reset that we did in the last 2 years, we've come to this point now with like, this is our set number of money that we have, and we can only spend how much we generate. So we cut our marketing budget by 50%, and we have optimized everything in this business for efficiency. Right, we don't want to cut any corners when it comes to product quality and to brand quality, because these are the pillars of our brand. This is like really the core of what customers are buying, and we want this to be like 110% perfect. But everything around it, when it comes to marketing, it's like, yeah, let's spend in the channels that actually convert, that are working well, as opposed to like testing 20 things at the same time and like only realizing that one or two of them work and having burned through a lot of money. So now we are running the business in a way with like, we spend what we make that month, and try to have a profit every month.
Okay, so the platforms that are actually work for you right now are Facebook and Google, I assume.
Yeah, Facebook and Google work. I mean, obviously they don't work as well as they used to, since the whole iOS updates and privacy updates that happened. But they're still the largest part of our budget, and it's been helping us optimize the whole marketing strategy. And then around it, what we're doing is like we do some influencer work, where we gift influencers and they post on us on their socials. We do a little bit of work on YouTube, where we've realized that our customer base is like, it's a high consideration item, right? If you buy a pair of shoes for $250, like you're not just gonna see it for the first time and immediately buy it. I think in order to sell a pair of $250, $300 shoes, you need to invest a little bit in brand and in your credibility. And that means we also have a small PR firm that is generating organic hits where we like come up in the news. And then simultaneously we work with like YouTubers to review our shoes. We actually did a collaboration with this leather guru on YouTube called Anvil. And he cut our shoes apart, and he cut up the shoes of our competitors like Common Projects apart, and he saw that our shoes are made of the same, if not higher quality, for a fraction of the price, and then widely recommended people to buy our shoes as opposed to Common Projects. And that strategy to like invest in YouTube relationships, send people shoes to review, has worked really well. Today we're actually launching our third drop of a limited edition collaboration with Anvil. Again, he has a really good audience that understands quality leather shoes. And yeah, he's a good spokesperson for the brand that started very organically, where he cut apart our shoes, saw that they're such a high level of quality, and now he wants to associate himself with it and be part of our brand. So we've come up with like a collaboration, and the third drop is launching today.
Okay, that's great. So the organic, and you see actually like when he actually posts videos, you see the performance increase, right? You see the difference inside your store, like.
Yes, with him we definitely see it, because I think it's a long-term collaboration. We're very aligned when it comes to values and target customers and audience base. But I mean, that was also a big learning. Typically, when we were working with like Instagrammers over the last years, and we wouldn't see like a post immediately translate into sales, again because it is a high consideration item, right? So we have to own a lot of share, share of mentions in the customer's mind. You have to be present on Instagram, you have to be present on Google, you have to be present on YouTube. We have a few stores where people can like check out our shoes in real life. But I think what we're trying to get to is like to have like 7 or 8 touch points for a customer before they actually convert. So we're trying to be in that life of the customer across different touch points. And one of them is YouTube, that is working really well.
Yeah, especially with influencer marketing, you can do, because YouTube, like it's something like that, it's influencer marketing. You need to find the right creators basically, because most of the time you're going to see like if you give to a random influencer on Instagram, you're not going to see sales increase. And even if you boost this ad with partnership ads on Facebook, you are not going to see a huge improvement. You're going to see some sales here and there, but it's not going to be something spectacular. Whereas like if you have someone in your niche, like the person that you actually found, which the ideal influencer for your niche, it can blow up the business overnight. So yeah, selection of influencer, it's because I always say like it's not influencer marketing doesn't work, it works, but you have to do it the right way as everything. So what is your goals right now with your business? Right now, okay, you've managed to actually make it more sustainable. And what are your goals right now? What are the revenues that you want to achieve? Like what do you want to do inside this business?
Well, I think what we want to do is like we want to be the known go-to sneaker brand for dress sneakers. Like we want to be known as the #1 dress sneaker brand. Like the Koio comes to mind immediately when you're looking to buy a nice pair of shoes that are not necessarily dress shoes, but that are sneakers that you can dress up, whether you go to the office, whether you go to a wedding, whether you have a date. Like this is the shoe that comes to mind. So we're really working on growing our market share in this specific segment. We're mostly targeting men between the age of 25 and 45-year-olds. Like we call these people like the, I don't know, the go-getters, the people that have a busy life, that like they always want to look sharp. They want to feel and look ready in their outfits, no matter where they go. They always want to know they're ready for the occasion. So we're really trying to expand our market share in this, and we're trying to grow from like a very solid basis now, from a profitable basis. It was hard to get here, but now that we've achieved it, we don't want to like give this foundation away again. And how are we going to do this? We're doing this by introducing new SKUs that are very aligned with our target customer. We've come out with a few very beautiful shoes this year. One of them is the Monza. It's a Formula One inspired vintage sneaker that has been doing really well. We are coming out with like new colorways and silhouettes that really like speak to our customer, and then ultimately we want to expand internationally as well. But everything step by step. I think right now we have a good market share in New York and California on the coast, and we want to expand this across the US, and then eventually also like really tackle international markets.
Okay, that's great. This was an amazing conversation. Thank you very much, Chris, for joining me into this call. Do you have any closing remarks?
A good question. Yeah, thank you, John. I enjoyed being here very much. I think maybe just like be like one piece of advice to like new founders that are just starting out. I think it's about like being very intentional with what you're doing. Like if you start a new business, really start with why. Why do you want to start this business? What is it that you want to achieve? Do you want to make quick money? Then there's probably other ways. Or do you really want to create like some kind of change in the world or in a specific market segment, big or small, that you care about, why you want to go there? And then take this as a starting point and think about what are the right tools to get there, what's the right kind of business to build, does it need funding, does it not need funding, and be very intentional and very authentic along every step of your way.
Okay, that's wonderful. Thank you very much, Chris, for your advice and your company.
Thank you.
And that's the pod.